Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 50 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay, I made it to day 50. Had a bit of a rough start for today. I just didn't want to get out of bed and do anything. My work night didn't go the way that I wanted to, so I was kind of hangover pouting or something about it this morning, and having to learn that lesson all over again, that just because I do everything that I feel like I'm supposed to do doesn't mean that I will get the end result that I want. It does mean that I will feel better because I'm doing all the stuff that I've committed to do. It does mean that I will feel closer to my Savior and to the Spirit, and those are good things for me to do. And I know that everything will get taken care of. It just doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen the way that I want it to. And I still struggle with if I do X, Y, Z, then I should end up with ABC. Or if I do ABC, I should get X, Y, Z. And sometimes I do ABC and I get GHI or something like that. And I'm like, that's not what I was looking for. I wanted X, Y, Z or ABC, whatever it is. So I'm having to learn that I don't always get what I want, but I always get what I need. And I have been blessed to get what I need, and I am grateful for people that reminded me of that today, and to be able to be okay with having a little bit of a later start on things. And work tonight was a little better than last night. Not as good as I would have liked, but it was okay. And I'm grateful that as I chose to read my scriptures and meditationals, and I chose to talk to my friends, and I chose to go to work, that I started to feel better. Like just the act of getting up and doing something kind of got rid of the depression, got rid of that cloud that was hanging over me that said, I don't want to get out of bed, I don't want to do anything today. And once again, it was one of those where I could see clearly that if I lay in bed and play games on my phone and start my day off slowly like that, that I end up just kind of, I don't know, blasé and grumpy, and I just don't like myself for the day. And if I get up first thing, even if I don't want to, but if I get up and start reading my scriptures and meditationals and get something to eat and start doing my writing or my Christmas projects or whatever it is that I have planned for the day, I start to feel better. I start to feel energized, and things start to flow and to work better. So my day goes more smoothly when I do those things, and I don't always remember to do those things. I don't always remember to take care of myself, or I remember and I just don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to do it today, and today I didn't want to, but then I wanted to feel better, and I kept thinking, I'll feel better as soon as I read. I'll feel better as soon as I write. I'll feel better as soon as, and it's true, I did. I felt better as soon as I did those things. So it's just, it's still hard for me to let go of those old default settings. And when I wake up and don't want to do anything, it's really hard for me to not give in to those. But I'm grateful to learn that it's okay to have emotions, to have bad days, to have old stuff come up. And it probably just means that I need to process things. I need to do things differently. So I was at work tonight and thinking about what I was going to write, because I didn't write before I went to work, obviously. And I have another story. I know I have all the stories I keep talking about. This is another one that I started about a year ago. I didn't finish the first chapter. I did it very differently. I kind of started the chapter, and the main character is kind of based off of myself. It pretty much is me, just with a whole bunch of fictional things, events that happen, and not based on my reality by any means, just a fictional version of me. Anyway, so haven't exactly decided if I'm going to use my real name for that character or use a different name, or what names or how that's going to work. Not even sure how I'm going to do that series in my head, like typing it up. I wasn't planning on doing it anytime soon, but I was just feeling frustrated today. And when I go to counseling, a lot of times my counselor will have me imagine like flight or fight reactions, where I can blow things up if I'm fighting, or do some fencing, or just do some punching, doing something I don't like the hitting, punching thing, and it's probably because of the abuse that I received when I was growing up. So I always imagine other stuff like blowing things up or usually blowing things up, cutting things up, fencing, things like that. But stuff that requires like to mentally picture doing physical activity, and then it kind of works its way out of my system. So I wondered if it might be fun to write something like that. So I was thinking about this particular story because it kind of starts off with a car accident. And I was in a car accident last week, so I thought that would be a good thing to write about. Needless to say, I was a little disappointed that I already wrote about the car accident, so the next part of that chapter was the aftermath and not the actual accident itself. So I did write a couple paragraphs about the aftermath, but I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that story. I mean, I like the story line. I read it. It was pretty good. But I started thinking as I was closing it that I'm like, well, I need to give names to some of these characters, and they don't have names. I never named them. Like, there's just a sheriff. He's just the sheriff. And I keep saying sheriff multiple times. I'm like, he should be sheriff something or other. I don't think something is a good last name, but he needs to have a name. I don't have a name for the sheriff, or for the deputy, or for any of the other characters that are introduced in that chapter. I also realized I didn't do any descriptive, well, as I'm talking in this video, I realized I didn't do any descriptive character traits, like the uniform they were wearing or any of those other things. I didn't describe any of those details. So I may have to go back and put in some more description of the characters and not just names of things. I'm not the most... I don't always think of the description things. That's not the first thing that pops into my head. It's usually the conversation or the events. It's not the details of whatever. Although when I did get to the shed, I did kind of describe the shed and the musty scent and all of those things. So I'm like, okay, the shed I described, the people I didn't, but the shed I did. Go figure. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. And I also was attempting to write this book from first person. I was trying to do it kind of like journal entry because I do journal entries a lot. But, and I know I can do conversations in a journal entry, but it's not quite, when I was reading it, it didn't quite seem like a journal entry to me. So I don't know. I may have to go back and revise it, do some more internal thoughts, italicize some things. Not really sure I want to spend a whole lot of time on that story right now because, like I said, I started that like a year ago. It's not something, I have too many projects. I just don't want to get sucked into something else that I'm working on when I haven't finished the other things. It was just, I know it was late and I wanted something to write about, and that was something that kind of popped into my head. And it's another one of those things that because that character is based off of myself, that it would bring up a lot of other emotional stuff, things for me to work through probably, or just things for me to let go of. And I just need to let go of things, let go of trying to control things. I think I realized that today a lot, is that I need to let go of trying to control things, because I think I still tell God what I want him to do. When I say my prayers, I'm like, okay, this is what I need, so make it happen. And then it doesn't happen the way that I want it to. And I was like, okay, but you were supposed to make this happen because I know you can make it happen. And it kind of doesn't occur to me to stop and say, okay, God, what do you want me to do today? What do you want to happen? These are the things I think that I need. How could I go about getting these things? I don't say my prayers that way. I don't ask that. I kind of do the demand thing. Like, this is what I want. This is how I want it to happen. And then I kind of do the tantrum thing when it doesn't work out the way that I want it to. And that doesn't really work either, because it doesn't change anything. It just puts me in a grumpy mood. And I was in a grumpy mood when I got up today, but I'm grateful that I was able to talk it out with some friends. And I'm grateful that I was able to read my scriptures and meditationals and say some prayers and go to work. And the grumpiness just kind of, it slowly dissipated, especially when things at work got a little bit better. Still not quite what I wanted for the night, but better. And I did manage to get some other things done too. So it was it was better. And at least my night is kind of ending on a better note, at least emotionally, feeling a little bit better about myself and about what I accomplished today, which is a good thing. So I am grateful for that. But I am a little disappointed because I thought I was going to have some fun writing about stuff blowing up or car accidents or something, because I haven't really done that. And I thought it would be fun to write something like that. And I like writing fun things, experimenting. I like experimenting with my writing, trying to see what I can do or not do. And it's also kind of interesting to go back and see what I wrote like a year ago, and to, as I do this video, to realize the details and things that I didn't put into my writing that I could have put in there, or maybe I should have put in there. So it's more things for me to learn, more things for me to see. And I still think I have good story ideas, but I think I'm still learning how to convey them, to write them, to put them into an actual story format. So it's kind of, how do I turn the ideas into the story? And that's what my biological mom used to do for me. So I would give her the ideas, and then she would turn it into the story. And of course, whenever you write a story or you do something, it kind of writes itself. It kind of adds stuff to it. So when she would do it, she would put her little input or her little ideas, and it would change according to what she was thinking. And I would just go along with it because I didn't know any better, or I was too afraid to speak up and say something different. But then it didn't feel like my story anymore. So I'm grateful for people that have given me insights and ideas. And I'm also grateful to be able to go back and look at my own writing and my old stuff and see, oh, I could fix this. I could do this better. I can go back and change this. And I may not go back and change it right now. Obviously, I'm not going to change it tonight. And I may not go back and work on it again tomorrow because I have all my other projects to work on. But like I said, I have several books that I am in the middle of. And that's one that I'd kind of forgotten about I hadn't forgotten that I did it. I just hadn't thought about working on it until tonight. And then I decided, instead of fighting myself or fighting my ideas, that if that's what I'm thinking about, then that's what I should write about. And I realized, this is day 50. I still don't have a book published. I don't have a book ready to be published. I'm not even any closer to finishing any of my books. But I also realized that there's no point in fighting myself or forcing myself to try to finish something I'm not ready to finish. And when I'm ready to work on it, everything just kind of falls into place. It just flows. And when I try to force it, I can type stuff up and it works out okay. But then I end up having to do a lot more revisions because I have to go back through and be like, I don't like this, I don't like that, I need to fix this, or this goes in a different order. And not all of it is that messed up, because even sometimes when I think it flows and I go back through and read it, I'm like, and I need to fix that. So, but a lot of the stuff that I'm going back and fixing is just because I've learned new things from sharing with my friends and sharing with people in my writing group and getting ideas from other people that have done writing. So it's helping me to improve my writing, which I'm grateful for, because I want to have good stories. I want stories that people want to read, and that's a good thing. And I think I need to be passionate about what I'm writing in the moment that I'm writing it. And if I'm not passionate or feeling it, then how is the reader supposed to feel it? And so I wasn't as passionate as I thought I would be about this particular story. But it was good. It was not as hard to write as I remember it being. Because I remember writing it before and then getting to some part that was really intense and freaking out, and that's why I stopped working on it. And then I read it tonight thinking it was going to be freaky and intense, and I was like, nah, this is boring. Not entirely boring. I'd already written the fun part that I wanted to write about, and I'd forgotten that I'd already written that part. So I'm like, oh, I already wrote that part. Okay, cool. And then I got to write the next part, which was okay, but it wasn't as intense or crazy as I thought it was going to be. So I wasn't, which I don't think was a bad thing. But I did realize I didn't put a lot of details in it, so I may need to go back and change how I'm doing it, which I already said. It's just a learning process for me. Just interesting to see. And I thought something that was intense a year ago, because I think it was December 21st last year that I started that. So almost a year ago. And I thought it was too intense to write it. I couldn't do it. I was too emotionally I don't know, I was too emotionally attached at the time. And tonight I could just go in there and do it. I'm like all excited to write it. And I was like, and it wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be, which is just kind of totally the opposite. Like I wasn't at all freaked out about it. I was kind of excited about it. Maybe a little bit nervous to share it on my video because I'm like, well, it is. And I think that was part of the intense thing and part of the issue that I have with writing my stories is because some of my characters are based off of me, or I unintentionally, like when I am the Teachers of Powers, my park friend, she was reading it and she was telling me that she can see me in my character. And I was like, what? I didn't put myself in the character. And then I'm going back through and revising the book and I'm like, oh, I did put myself into the character. But it's my thoughts, it's my emotions. That's how I picture things. So that's how my character pictures things, I guess. So it's not intentionally putting myself into it, but I guess subconsciously doing it somehow. I'm not very good at completely detaching myself from my stories. And I know when I daydream in my head that I become the characters in my head. I become the men in my head, I become the women in my head, I become the kids in my head. Whatever character that I'm picturing it from, I'm that particular character. I feel all of those emotions. I'm living that story in my head. So it's kind of how I do that when I write my books. But this one is just, a fantasy version of my life. All the fun, crazy, weird, scary stuff that I watch in TV and movies and be like, I know that's not real and it will never happen to me in my life because I'm never going to be in a situation where that would happen. But I imagined a situation in my life where those things would happen so that I could have those crazy, wild, insane adventures and have all the consequences that are associated with it. But I could do it in my head and then not have to worry about it in real life. So the scary part for me is sharing all of those ideas and stories with the rest of the world. But I think somehow in doing all of these videos and doing all the writing that I've been doing, and even though I haven't shared all of my writing with the world, I think before it was scary because I knew the purpose of writing it was to share it. And tonight it's like I read that thinking that it was going to be scary to share it. And instead I wasn't scared to share it. I wasn't scared to write it. I didn't feel silly. I didn't feel like it was something to be ashamed of. I thought it was kind of an interesting story. I was trying to write it as a journal entry. It didn't quite come off that way. I left out too many details for characters. And I started looking at it as more of an author writing a story instead of the character being me and sharing myself in the story, or being embarrassed that I came up with some crazy fantasy for my life. Because lots of people come up with fantasies or daydreams. Lots of people watch TVs or movies, or they kind of come up with their own side story as how they think the story should have ended or whatever. I've even had my brother tell me one time he read a series of books, and I started the series and I never finished it, and he got through the whole series, and then he said he didn't like the ending, so he was going to have to rewrite it in his head. So I know I'm not the only person that rewrites the stories or finishes the happily ever after, like this is what actually happens in the happily ever after, or insert myself into said story to become part of the adventure. And so I know I'm not the only person that does that. It's just that I'm doing that with a book that could turn into an entire series. And I actually had more in it than I thought that I had. I'd put more thought into it than I realized, because I didn't realize I'd given it a title. And I'm like, oh, it has a title. What do you know? I didn't realize it had any of that stuff in there. So it was kind of fun to see what I did a year ago. Kind of fun to see how I've changed and what I've learned about my writing, and some ideas as to how to improve that particular story. But again, hoping I don't spend too much time on that one, because I would like to finish Recognizing God's Hand in My Life sometime, hopefully in the next 50 days. Even if it's not published, I'd like to at least finish it. And I'm hoping probably the end of this week or something, I probably need to talk to my friend that I asked to edit Little A and the Teachers of Powers to see where she's at with that, or if she's even working on that. Curiosity thing. I need to figure out when I sent it to her, because I don't remember. But I think it's been about 2 weeks since I sent it to her. And I asked her if she could do it in 2 weeks. So I need to get a hold of her probably tomorrow or sometime this week, maybe Friday, we'll see. But I need to get a hold of her and see where she's at, because I wanted to have it published by Christmas, but that's not going to happen. But right now, that is the closest book that I have to being published before the end of my 100 days, which would be nice because I still have 50 days to do it, because today is day 50. Woohoo! So I guess that means I have 49 days. But but I know that's the closest one I have to getting published. And I know recognizing God's hand in my life is the next closest one to being finished. But I also know that it's not worth fighting myself on doing things. And I think that when God puts ideas in my head for my other stories, that looking at them, like tonight, I'm able to type up some more things, add a few details. I'm able to see how my writing style has changed, or see what I can do to improve what I did before, and also see things that I like and be like, oh, I wrote this, I like this, ooh, I need to add this, I need to change this. So it's kind of it's still kind of fun for me in that regard. And it's just another way for me to see the growth and the change that I've had in my life. And I'm grateful for little things like that, because honestly, when I was driving around tonight, I was thinking it was going to be very intense, and I was going to be freaked out about writing it, and I was going to be freaked out about talking about it in my video, and I wasn't freaked out about any of it. So I'm much more at peace with the idea of sharing all of these things and being that vulnerable with everyone, and being like, you know what, it's okay. People are going to like it or they're not going to like it. And I have the option when I'm done writing the book to change the name so it doesn't have my name, and people that don't watch these videos may or may not know the character's based off of me. And it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And that's the thing, because I know other people have created similar ideas or stories in their heads. They just maybe don't write them, or maybe they write them and they just don't tell people that it's their imagination of what they wish would happen in their life, or something they made up about themselves, and then decided to put it in a book format. I don't know how other authors and writers do stuff like that. And it used to be that the books would just come out and be published, as we didn't have YouTube and other things. So unless you read an interview, or unless they wrote something about it, you had no idea how other authors or writers came up with their stories or did things. So it's amazing how much more you know by sharing and doing things. And so there's just a lot for me to learn, a lot for me to share, a lot of changes. And if nothing else, I'm grateful for the little things that I can notice, the progress that I'm making. And it's kind of fun doing these videos, because it helps me to see the progress that I'm making, and not just going back and seeing the books that I wrote a year ago and seeing the progress there too. So it's kind of fun, because oftentimes I think other people see the progress before I do, and I don't always feel like I'm making progress. And I have days like this morning where I'm like, I just don't want to do it anymore, and I'm done. And then tonight, when I actually get in there and write, it makes me grateful, because I can see how I've grown. I can see the changes that I've made, and I can see that I'm much more comfortable with sharing what I thought were things that I thought were too personal to share, or that I was too embarrassed and thought I would get teased about. And now I'm just like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me anymore. It's okay. And I'm fine with it, which surprised me. I don't know if I'm 100% fine with it, but I also know it's going to be a while before that book ever gets published, and I will hopefully have other books out there, so it really won't matter by the time I get that one done. But I think that's the realization, is it really won't matter once it's done, or once it's published, once it's out there. And I have no control over what happens to it, but I'm learning to let go of control, or let go of the illusion of being in control, and trusting that God will take care of things, and everything will work out the way that it's supposed to, even if it doesn't work out the way that I want it to. So, and I'm still learning that. I will probably have to keep learning that, because it's one of those things that I know in my head, but it's kind of hard to feel it in my heart. So to internalize it. But a lot of things that I've been talking about, or started learning through the gratitude videos and through all of my writing the last 50 days, have really helped to internalize a lot of things. And internalizing it just kind of makes it makes it easier to process, makes it easier for me to be willing to change, to be able to see the contrast, the what works versus what doesn't work, what makes me feel good, what doesn't make me feel good, and knowing that I'm okay and I will get through this. And I'm very grateful for that and for these videos. And if you like them, you can hit like, subscribe. If you think it'll help someone else, you can share it with them too. That would be great. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe some writing.